Dr. Eliza Reeves stood in the small engine room of the cargo ship Persistent Mule checking her device one more time. The ship was old, slow, and boring. Exactly why she chose it. No one would look for her here. Eliza ran her hand over the metal box she had built in secret, the chrono displacement engine. For 15 years, she had been the best temporal physicist in the United Nations Space Command. She created theories about how to move through time that no one else could even understand. But then the military leaders got scared. They called her work too dangerous and took away her funding. They said she was unstable, paranoid, and finally, dangerous. They were wrong to dismiss her, and soon they would know it. What those fools didn't know was that Eliza had already built her machine. It sat hidden in a modified engine compartment of this ordinary cargo ship. The device was ready, but there was one problem. It needed more power than the ship's small fusion core could give it. It also needed a special kind of radiation to activate fully. Eliza hadn't figured out that part yet. She sighed and wiped sweat from her forehead. The engine room was hot and smelled of oil. Maybe she would never solve the power problem. Maybe her life's work would remain just a metal box, hidden on a forgettable ship traveling between unremarkable planets. Meanwhile, far away, 3 large warships of the Saurian Dominion crossed into human space. The reptilian aliens had been watching humans expand their territory for years. Today, they planned to stop it. "Target confirmed," said Captain Krell, looking at the screen on his warship. "The human vessel Relentless Pursuit carries their new weapons. Destroy it, and we delay their expansion by years." What Captain Krell didn't know was that his intelligence was wrong. Very wrong. Back on the Persistent Mule Eliza was eating a bland meal in her small cabin when the alarm started. Red lights flashed as the captain's voice came through the speakers. "All hands, unknown vessels approaching. They're not responding to." The message cut off as the first missile hit. The ship shook violently, throwing Eliza against the wall. She scrambled to her feet and ran toward the engine room. She had to protect her device. 2 more explosions rocked the ship. Pipes burst, spraying steam. Crew members ran in panic. Eliza ignored them all, pushing through the chaos to reach the engine section. When she arrived, part of the room was already torn open to space. Emergency shields flickered, barely holding back the vacuum. Near her device, a strange green plasma from the alien weapons burned through the ship's hull. Eliza's eyes widened as she saw what was happening. The radiation from the Saurian plasma weapons was interacting with her chrono displacement engine. The device hummed and glowed with energy. Readings on its small screen showed power levels she had never achieved in her lab. The ship was breaking apart around her. Crew members were dying. But Dr. Eliza Reeves smiled. "They hit the wrong ship," she whispered as the device pulsed with temporal energy. The chrono displacement engine activated fully as another explosion tore through the hull. Just before the vacuum of space could claim her, Eliza felt the familiar pull of her machine, but 1,000 times stronger than in her tests. The ship disintegrated around her, but Eliza Reeves was no longer there. She was no longer anywhere, or rather, she was everywhere, in every moment of human history. The Saurians had made a terrible mistake. Instead of stopping human expansion, they had just given a brilliant, bitter woman the power to rewrite history itself. Eliza Reeves opened her eyes, expecting to see death. Instead, she saw everything. She floated in a strange space between moments. She wasn't in normal space anymore. She wasn't even in normal time. Around her swirled streams of light that she somehow knew were the threads of time itself, past, present, and future all visible at once. "I'm not dead," she whispered, her voice making no sound yet somehow echoing in this strange place. "The chrono displacement engine worked better than I ever imagined." Eliza looked down and saw that she still had a body, or at least something that looked like her body. She could move her hands and feet, but she felt weightless. More importantly, she could think more clearly than ever before. She turned slowly, taking in the incredible view. The threads of time stretched in all directions like rivers of light. Some were thick and bright, showing major events in history. Others were thin, representing smaller moments. But all were connected in a vast web. "I can see it all," she said in wonder. Human history from beginning to end. When she focused on a specific thread, images appeared. She saw ancient Egypt, medieval Europe, the first moon landing, the Mars colonies, first contact with aliens, everything that had ever happened to humanity. But more amazing than seeing history was realizing she could touch it. When Eliza reached toward a thread, she felt herself being pulled toward it. She could enter any moment in time if she wanted. Meanwhile, in normal space, the Saurian warships circled the wreckage of the persistent mule. Their sensors detected something they had never seen before, a bubble of strange energy where part of the ship had been. "Captain Krell, our sensors show a temporal anomaly," said the science officer, a tall Saurian with dark green scales. "It appeared when our weapons hit the human ship." "What kind of anomaly?" Krell asked, his tail twitching nervously. "Unknown, but it's growing stronger. And our computers show this was not the Relentless Pursuit *. This was just a cargo ship called the Persistent Mule *. Captain Krell slammed his clawed hand on the control panel. "We attacked the wrong ship. Find out what was on it. Now." Back in the space between moments, Eliza was learning how her new powers worked. She discovered she could send her mind into the body of anyone in history. She could see through their eyes, feel what they felt, and most importantly, influence their thoughts. "I can make small changes," she realized. "I can whisper ideas to people throughout history. I can guide humanity's development." She focused on a thread from the year 2078 and saw Dr. Ayanna Chen, a brilliant engineer whose ideas about space travel were ignored during her lifetime. In the original history, Chen died disappointed, her revolutionary engine designs forgotten until someone else rediscovered them 50 years later. "Not this time," Eliza said with a smile. She reached out and touched the thread. Suddenly, she was looking through Ayanna Chen's eyes, feeling the frustration of a genius whose ideas were dismissed by everyone. "Listen to me, Eliza thought. Asteriski can help you present your ideas better. I can help you change the world, As Eliza began her first change to history, the Saurian High Command was calling an emergency meeting. They didn't understand what they had done, but they knew it was something dangerous, something that might change everything. They were right to be afraid. Dr. Ayanna Chen sat at her desk, staring at the rejection letter on her screen. For the 5th time, her revolutionary engine design had been dismissed by the space agency. She was ready to give up. Don't give up, A voice seemed to whisper in her mind. They're wrong. You're right. You just need to show them differently, Ayanna frowned. Where had that thought come from? But it felt right. She opened her designs again and suddenly saw a new way to explain her work. Ideas flowed into her mind, clearer, stronger, more convincing than before. This was Eliza at work. From her place between moments, she guided Ayanna's thoughts, helping her refine her presentation without completely taking over her mind. It was a delicate balance. 3 weeks later, Ayanna Chen stood before the Space Agency board again. This time, they listened. This time, they understood. This time, they approved her project. "The Chen Drive will change space travel forever," the head of the board announced. In her temporal bubble, Eliza watched with satisfaction as the thread of history changed. In the original timeline, faster-than-light travel wasn't developed until 50 years later. Now humanity would reach the stars decades earlier than before. But something unexpected happened. As Eliza pulled back from Ayanna's mind, she noticed that something of herself had been left behind. Ayanna, once open and collaborative, became more secretive about her work. She began to see rivals where there were only colleagues. She started to show signs of paranoia, just like Eliza. "Interesting," Eliza murmured. a side effect of my influence, but a small price to pay for progress. She turned her attention to other threads of time, looking for her next target. But she didn't notice how the change was already creating ripples throughout history. Meanwhile, in the Saurian Dominion, their best temporal scientist had been called in. Scifi was tall even for a Saurian, with bright blue scales and intelligent eyes. He studied the readings from the destroyed human ship with growing concern. "High Commander, I believe we have a serious problem," he said to the Saurian leader. "The temporal readings suggest that someone survived the explosion by moving outside normal time, and there are already changes appearing in our historical records." The High Commander's scales darkened with worry. "What kind of changes?" "Human technological development is accelerating. According to our original records, they shouldn't have developed the Chen drive for another 50 years, but now it's already happening." "How is this possible?" the commander asked. "I believe someone is changing history," Scifi explained. "Someone who can see the original timeline and is fixing humanity's mistakes before they happen." Back in her temporal bubble, Eliza was already selecting her next target, a military strategist from 2103 whose defensive plans had left Earth vulnerable to alien influence. With a few small changes to his thinking, humanity would develop much stronger defenses decades ahead of schedule. "They called me dangerous," Eliza said to herself. "They were right. I am dangerous to anyone who threatens humanity's future." As she reached for the next thread of time, she didn't realize that a pattern was forming. Each person she influenced gained something of her brilliance, but also something of her paranoia. And each change was pushing humanity toward a very different future than the one she had come from. A future where humans would never be vulnerable again. The Saurians had made a terrible mistake, and they were only beginning to understand how terrible it would be. Scifi stood before the Saurian Dominion Council, his blue scales gleaming under the bright lights. On the large screen behind him, a map showed dozens of changes to the human timeline. "The pattern is clear," Scifi explained. "Someone is systematically fixing humanity's historical mistakes. Each change makes humans stronger, faster, smarter. At this rate, they will surpass our technology in 5 years instead of 50. The council members hissed with concern, their tails twitching nervously. "How is this possible?" asked the head counselor. "We believe it's connected to the ship we destroyed," Scifi said. "The persistent mule must have carried a temporal physicist and some kind of time device that activated during our attack." Meanwhile, Eliza was making her third major change to history. She was now inside the mind of Dr. Karim Singh in the year 2112. In the original timeline, his breakthrough in artificial intelligence had been limited by strict regulations based on fear. Those regulations had set AI development back by decades. "They're afraid of what they don't understand, Eliza whispered in Singh's mind. "But you can create safeguards. Show them it's safe, Under Eliza's influence, Singh added clever safety features to his AI design. When he presented his work to the World Science Council, they were convinced. The regulations were eased, and AI development accelerated by 30 years. But again, something of Eliza remained in Singh's mind. Like Ayana Chen before him, Singh became more isolated and suspicious of others. His brilliant work continued, but he began to see enemies everywhere. Eliza was starting to notice this pattern, but she didn't care. A few people with trust issues is nothing compared to advancing humanity by centuries, she told herself as she floated in her temporal bubble. What she didn't know was that a small group of humans had somehow maintained their memories of the original timeline. Led by Dr. Marcus Kim, they had formed a secret organization to investigate the changes. Dr. Kim's team met in an underground lab, surrounded by devices designed to shield them from timeline alterations. "It's happening again," said Dr. Lena Wong, looking at their monitors. AI regulations were just removed 30 years early. History is being rewritten. And not just technologically, added Dr. Kim. He pointed to images of Ayana Chen and others who had been influenced. These people all show the same psychological changes. Increased intelligence, but also increased paranoia and isolation. It's like they're all being infected with the same personality disorder. We need to find the source, said Dr. Wong. Whoever is changing history is leaving a clear psychological fingerprint. Dr. Kim nodded. I think I know who it might be. Dr. Eliza Reeves disappeared 3 months ago. Her work on temporal physics was deemed too dangerous. What if she found a way to use it? Back in her bubble between moments, Eliza sensed something strange. A group of minds that seemed aware of her changes. At first, she was angry. Who were these people to resist her improvements? But then she saw an opportunity. If they can recognize my changes, they must be exceptionally intelligent, she reasoned. They could help me, or they might become my next vessels for change. She reached toward the thread that contained Dr. Kim and his team, eager to learn more about this unexpected resistance. The game was changing. Now Eliza wasn't the only one who knew what was happening to history. #they bombed the wrong ship. Now history belongs to a mad genius. Part 5. Escalation. By the year 2150, just 3 years after the Saurian attack in the original timeline, humanity had developed technology that should have taken centuries. Powerful weapons, space engineering, and mind-machine interfaces had all advanced at an incredible pace. But something was wrong with human society. The people Eliza had influenced, brilliant scientists, military leaders, and inventors, had all become strange. They created amazing things but stayed alone in their labs. They didn't trust anyone. They were always afraid of attacks or betrayal. Dr. Kim's team, now calling themselves the Continuity Preservation Agency, CPA, had identified almost 30 important historical figures who had changed from friendly, normal geniuses to isolated, paranoid ones. It's spreading like a disease, Dr. Kim told his team as they looked at pictures of the affected people. I'm calling it Reeves syndrome. Whoever Eliza touches becomes more like her. Dr. Wong looked worried. The technology is amazing, but look at what's happening to our society. People don't cooperate anymore. Everyone is suspicious of everyone else. The Saurian Dominion was now deeply concerned. Human technology had suddenly jumped far ahead of their own. Sarvesh had built a special probe that could detect temporal disturbances. The probe has found something, Sarvesh reported to the High Commander. There's a bubble of stop time where the human ship was destroyed. Someone is hiding there, outside normal time. Can we destroy this bubble? Asked the commander. No, but we might be able to send a message into it. Eliza, meanwhile, had made her boldest move yet. She reached back to the first meeting between humans and Saurians in 2098. In the original timeline, this meeting had been peaceful. Both sides were careful and respectful. This time, Eliza took control of the human ambassador. Instead of being friendly, she made the ambassador demonstrate fake technology that didn't exist yet. Technology she knew would be developed in the future. It seemed like humans were decades ahead of the Saurians. The Saurian delegation was shocked. They reported back to their leaders that humans were much more advanced than they had thought. This changed everything. Instead of working with humans as partners, the Saurians began to keep their distance, afraid of human power. Back in her temporal bubble, Eliza smiled at this change. Now they will fear us instead of thinking they can attack us whenever they want. Just then, something unexpected happened. A message appeared in her bubble, like words floating in the air. We know what you're doing, Eliza. History isn't yours to command. Eliza was surprised. Someone had found a way to contact her in her bubble outside time. It had to be Dr. Kim's group. She sent a message back. History belongs to those who shape it. And I've only just begun. But for the first time, Eliza felt a small doubt. She had been so focused on making humanity stronger that she hadn't noticed how she was changing its soul. The people she influenced were becoming copies of her. Brilliant but damaged, just like she was. It doesn't matter, she told herself. A few unhappy geniuses are worth it if humanity survives and dominates the stars. She pushed the doubt away and reached for another thread of time. But the doubt remained, tiny but growing. Dr. Marcus Kim's small group had grown into a real organization. The Continuity Preservation Agency now had 50 members, all wearing special devices on their wrists that protected their memories from timeline changes. They had built a hidden base deep underground where they tracked every change to history. Large screens showed before and after pictures of people Eliza had influenced. The pattern is clear, Dr. Kim explained to the new members. Each person Dr. Reeves touches becomes brilliant but damaged. They create amazing technology, but lose their connection to other people. Dr. Wong pointed to a map of human space. Our technology is advancing incredibly fast. We've colonized twice as many planets as we should have by now. But look at the reports from those colonies. The reports showed fights between colonists, lack of cooperation, and growing paranoia. People had stopped trusting each other. Brilliant but isolated leaders made decisions without consulting others. We're becoming a race of genius loners, said Dr. Kim. That's not what made humanity special. Our strength was always working together. Meanwhile, Eliza had decided to confront the resistance directly. From her bubble outside time, she projected an image of herself into the CPA's hidden base. She appeared as a glowing, transparent figure in the middle of their meeting room. Everyone jumped in surprise. Some reached for weapons. Dr. Reeves, said Kim calmly, we've been expecting you. Why are you fighting against me? Eliza asked. Her voice echoed strangely. I'm making humanity stronger, safer. In my original timeline, we were vulnerable. The Saurian attack was just the beginning. At what cost, Eliza? Kim stepped toward her image. Look at what you're doing to these people. They become reflections of you. Alone, afraid, seeing enemies everywhere. You're turning humanity into a race of brilliant madmen. Eliza paused. She had noticed the psychological changes, but had considered them unimportant. Now, seeing the evidence on the CPA's screens, she felt that small doubt grow larger. Maybe that's exactly what humanity needs to survive among the stars, she finally said, but her voice lacked conviction. After her image disappeared, the CPA team looked at each other with hope. She's listening, said Dr. Wong. She's starting to see the problem. On the Saurian homeworld, Sarvash had developed a desperate plan. We can't stop her directly, he told the High Command, but we might be able to prevent her from ever getting these powers. How? Asked the commander. We send a message back in time to our fleet, warning them not to attack the persistent mule asterisk. If her device never activates, none of this happens. The plan was approved. Using technology based on the temporal readings from Eliza's bubble, the Saurians prepared to send a message back in time. But Eliza wasn't sitting idle. She had selected her most important target yet, her own grandfather, Dr. Thomas Reeves, the man who first developed temporal physics theories in 2042. By enhancing his understanding with knowledge from the future, she could create a loop where her own research would become even more powerful. As she reached for this thread of time, the doubt in her mind continued to grow. Was she saving humanity, or was she destroying what made humans human? Dr. Thomas Reeves sat at his desk in 2042, frustrated by a problem in his equations. He was close to a breakthrough in temporal physics, but something was missing. He couldn't see how to make the numbers work. Suddenly, a new idea came to him. It felt strange, as if someone else had placed it in his mind. But it made perfect sense. He quickly wrote down the new formula, excitement building as he saw how perfectly it solved his problem. What Dr. Reeves didn't know was that his granddaughter Eliza, who wouldn't be born for another 20 years, was guiding his thoughts from her bubble outside time. By helping her grandfather develop temporal physics earlier and better than in the original timeline, Eliza created what scientists call a bootstrap paradox, a loop where information has no clear beginning. Her own research was now based partly on improvements that she herself had introduced into the past. This change made Eliza's position outside normal time stronger. Her temporal bubble became more stable, and she found she could now influence multiple people at the same time, making coordinated changes across different periods of history. Meanwhile, the Saurian plan to warn their past selves had partially worked. Their message reached the fleet before the attack, but something unexpected happened. Instead of preventing the attack completely, the confused Saurian captain decided to target both ships, the original target and the persistent mule asterisk. This created a split in time, a new branch where Eliza's device was still activated, but under different circumstances. These circumstances left traces that the Saurians could follow more easily. "We found her," Xarvesh announced to the High Command. "The new timeline branch gives us a clearer path to her temporal bubble." Back at the CPA headquarters, Dr. Kim's team made a troubling discovery. "It's worse than we thought," Dr. Wong said, pointing to their monitors. "The psychological pattern we call Reeves syndrome isn't just affecting the people Eliza directly influences, it's spreading across generations." The monitors showed how children and even grandchildren of the affected people were showing the same traits: brilliant but isolated, innovative but paranoid. "Human society is becoming more advanced, but also more fractured," Dr. Kim said. "We're losing what made us human, our ability to connect, to trust, to work together." Dr. Kim studied Eliza's personal history from before the Saurian attack. "Fighting her directly won't work," he told his team. "She has too much control over time now. We need to understand why she's doing this." After hours of research, they found something important: a tragedy in Eliza's youth. When she was 16, her parents died in an accident caused by a company that had ignored safety rules to save money. The company was never properly punished. "This is it," Dr. Kim said. "This is when she lost her trust in other people and in the system. This is when she decided that only she could fix things." Dr. Wong looked thoughtful. "So we don't need to stop her. We need to heal her," Kim finished. "If we can help her process that trauma differently, maybe she'll use her powers with more wisdom." In her temporal bubble, Eliza felt another change rippling through time, something aimed not at history in general, but at her own past. For the first time, she felt truly threatened. "They're trying to change me," she whispered. "I won't let them." But part of her wondered what they had discovered, and whether they might be right. As Eliza continued to reshape history, she began to notice something that troubled her. Despite creating a technologically superior humanity, people weren't happier or more united. In fact, they were becoming more isolated. She watched a colony on Europa, Jupiter's moon. In the original timeline, the colony had struggled with harsh conditions, but survived through teamwork and shared sacrifice. In her new timeline, the colony had much better technology, but was failing because the brilliant leaders couldn't work together. "Something is wrong," Eliza admitted to herself. "I've given humanity better tools, but I've taken away what made the tools useful." She examined more colonies, more cities, more human groups. The pattern was the same everywhere. The traits she was accidentally transferring: distrust, fear, isolation, were destroying humanity's greatest strength: cooperation. Meanwhile, Dr. Kim's team had developed their plan. Instead of trying to stop Eliza's changes to general history, they would focus on one key moment in her personal past, right after her parents died when she was 16. "We can't change the accident," Dr. Kim explained, "but we can change how young Eliza processed her grief." Dr. Wong prepared a special temporal message designed to reach one specific person: Sarah Miller, the grief counselor who had worked with teenage Eliza after her parents' death. "We're not trying to control Sarah," Dr. Wong said. "We're just going to give her some insights that will help her connect better with young Eliza." They sent the message back through time. In 2020, Sarah Miller was preparing for her session with the angry, brilliant teenager who had just lost both parents. Suddenly, Sarah had a new idea about how to approach this difficult case. The idea seemed to come from nowhere, but it felt right. When 16-year-old Eliza arrived, Sarah tried a different approach than in the original timeline. Instead of focusing only on Eliza's grief, she helped Eliza process her anger at the unfairness of the system that had let the responsible company escape punishment. "Your anger is justified," Sarah told young Eliza, "but don't let it disconnect you from other people. Not everyone is like that company. Many people want justice and fairness, just like you do." In her temporal bubble outside normal time, adult Eliza felt the change ripple through her own memories and personality. New memories formed alongside the old ones, memories of a grief counselor who had actually helped, who had validated her anger while keeping her connected to humanity. For the first time since activating her time device, Eliza felt truly uncertain about her work. At that moment, something unexpected happened. A message appeared in her bubble, not from Dr. Kim's team, but from Sarvesh, the Saurian scientist. "Dr. Reeves, I am the scientist who has been tracking your work across timelines. I do not seek to stop you, but to understand you. Our attack on your ship was a mistake based on wrong information. In our pride, we acted too quickly. Perhaps in this, our species are not so different." Eliza, with her slightly changed perspective from Kim's intervention, found herself willing to listen to the Saurian. Maybe there was another way forward that didn't require her to reshape all of history alone. Something remarkable happened in the space between moments. Eliza, floating in her temporal bubble, opened communication channels to both Dr. Kim's team and Sarvesh. For the first time since gaining her powers, she was truly listening to others instead of just changing things on her own. Holographic images of Dr. Kim and Sarvesh appeared in her bubble. They could see each other, creating a meeting that existed outside normal time. "Thank you for talking with us, Dr. Reeves," Kim said. "I was curious," Eliza replied. "You've gone to great lengths to reach me." Kim nodded. "We had to. Your changes to history have created a humanity that's technologically amazing, but spiritually empty." On large displays that Eliza created in her bubble, they could all see images from different timelines, the original one and the altered one Eliza had created. "The technology in your new timeline is centuries ahead of where it should be," Kim explained. "But look at how people live." The images showed advanced human colonies where brilliant individuals worked alone in their labs, suspicious of everyone. Cooperation was rare. Trust was almost non-existent. Sarvesh spoke next. "We've studied both timelines, Dr. Reeves. In the original path, despite slower technological progress, humans and Saurians eventually formed a strong alliance that benefited both our peoples. Your changes have made that impossible." "Impossible?" Eliza asked. "Yes," Sarvesh explained. "The humans in your new timeline are too suspicious of other species, and the psychological pattern you've spread, what the CPA calls Reeves syndrome, gets worse with each generation." Eliza was silent for a long time, studying the images of both timelines. The new memories from Kim's intervention in her past helped her see things differently. She remembered how her grief counselor had kept her connected to humanity during her darkest time. "I wanted to protect us," she finally said. "I saw only weakness in our original path." "What you saw as weakness was actually our strength," Kim said gently. "Our willingness to trust, to cooperate, to form connections, even with those different from us. You've given us incredible technology, but taken away what we needed to use it wisely." Eliza moved through the displays, looking at children in both timelines. In the original timeline, they played together, worked on projects as teams, shared ideas freely. In her altered timeline, even children were suspicious and isolated, brilliant but lonely. "I've been so focused on making us stronger," she whispered, "that I didn't notice I was making us weaker in a different way." Sarvesh stepped forward. "It is not too late, Dr. Reeves. With your power and our combined knowledge, perhaps we can find a better path, one that preserves the technological advances without the psychological damage." Eliza looked at both of them. She faced a profound choice. She could continue forcing her vision on history, making humanity technologically dominant but psychologically damaged. Or she could try something much harder, finding a balanced way forward that kept the best of both timelines. "I need time to consider," she said finally. "And time is the one thing I have plenty of." Kim and Sarvesh nodded in understanding. For the first time, there was hope for a better solution, one that would come from cooperation rather than control. After what felt like years in her bubble outside time, Eliza finally made her decision. She called Dr. Kim and Sarvesh back to her temporal space. "I've studied every change I made to history," she told them. "I understand now both the benefits and the damage I caused." She showed them her new plan on the floating displays. "I won't completely reset the timeline. I can't bring myself to erase the technological advances I've given humanity, but I can fix the psychological damage." Kim looked hopeful. "How?" "Instead of directly controlling historical figures and leaving parts of my damaged personality behind, I can create subtle environmental changes that lead to the same innovations without the psychological transfer." Sarvesh studied her plan with interest. A calibration rather than a reset. Fascinating. Over the next period, which might have been days or years in normal time, the three worked together on this unprecedented approach. Eliza carefully rewove the threads of time, keeping the Chen drive, the advanced AI breakthroughs, and dozens of other innovations, but changing how they came about. Instead of lonely geniuses working in isolation, these advances would now emerge from healthy collaboration between brilliant minds. The technology would remain, but the human spirit would be restored. "There's one more thing we need to address," Eliza said when they were almost finished. "The original bombing of my ship. It needs to remain," Sarvesh said. "It's the event that gave you these abilities in the first place." "Yes, but the aftermath can be different." In the new, carefully adjusted timeline, the bombing still happened. Eliza's chrono-displacement engine still activated, but instead of using her power alone, this new version of Eliza immediately reached out to both human authorities and Saurian representatives. Together, they established the first temporal accord, an agreement between species on the responsible use of time technology. As the new timeline solidified, Eliza's temporal bubble began to fade. She was returning to normal time, her consciousness going back to the moment just after the bombing, but in a very different reality than before. "Will I remember all this?" she asked Kim before the final transition. "Some part of you will," he assured her, "enough to make better choices." Eliza found herself waking up on the damaged, but not destroyed persistent Newell *. Emergency teams, both human and Saurian, worked around her. Her time device hummed in its compartment, still active but stable. In her mind were memories of lessons learned across countless timelines, wisdom no single life could normally contain. She understood now that strength came not just from technology, but from connection, trust, and cooperation. A Saurian medical officer approached her cautiously. Eliza looked at him without fear or suspicion, only a deep understanding that their futures were connected. "You bombed the wrong ship," she told the confused alien with a knowing smile. "And it might be the best mistake your people ever made." As human and Saurian scientists gathered around her device, Eliza felt something she hadn't experienced in a very long time. Hope for a future built not by one brilliant but damaged mind, but by many minds working together. Some would call it a happy ending. Eliza preferred to think of it as a better beginning. ****, the end ****.